Do avoidants regret breaking up? It's what we will discuss today in this video. As you know, I'm a former avoidant, and as a therapist, I will explain the psychology of avoidant, why they took the decision to end the relationship. Is there a possibility for you to get back together? Because that's the whole thing. I don't want you to be watching videos, including mine, if at the end of the day there's no chances, there's no point trying to get back with them. And finally, I will explain why they regret, because very often they do regret. Not in all cases, and that's the thing I really want to emphasize here. Not all relationships can be saved. Your partner is very different. I will help you assess whether there's a potential for you to recover this relationship, but it's also very important, and sometimes I prefer to manage your expectations rather to tell you, if you do this and that and use this magic formula, for sure you'll get back together. This is more complex than that, obviously. Any case, jingle.
IGetMyExBack.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
Let's just clear the air for a second. As you know, I'm a former avoidant, and sometimes on the comments, and when I say I'm a former avoidant, I'm an avoidant. Let's be clear. I don't believe that you stop being the person you used to be. I just know how to manage my avoidance. And I think my clients who are anxious, for example, in a way, I tell them the good news is that you can learn the tools to be more secure and to evolve and to be happy and have healthy relationship. The bad news is you still be a little bit anxious, right? This is in our nature. It's not a good. The whole point of therapeutical work or attachment-based therapy is not to stop being who you are. There are lots of upsides of being an avoidant, lots of upsides of being anxious. Let's be clear. But I think a lot of comments that I see on my videos is like, stay away from them. They are narcissistic. They are manipulative. It is more complex than that. The reason people develop an avoidant attachment style, as you know, is from childhood, is how they respond to their caregiver. And the thing is, the reason I talk a lot about attachment theory is because it helps look at relationship dynamic from a very simplistic yet very accurate way to frame relationships. Anxious, avoidant. The other day I was with friends. I think they're both secure. But when I introduced them the concept of attachment theory, they didn't know about. They should watch more of my videos, by the way. She's following me on Instagram, but she didn't know about attachment theory, so I was a bit confused. Maybe I need to do more videos on Instagram. Anyway, and very quickly they're like, "Oh yeah, when we fight, you're the one saying like, I should go upstairs, you go downstairs," and I was the one knocking at the door, feeling anxious. I wanted to stay with you, and so the thing is, there's always this dynamic of anxious avoidant, and anxious are attracted by avoidant love anxious people, and even with amongst two secure people, we have a tendency to lean towards anxious or avoidant. So the whole thing is, when you're anxious, you hyperactivate this attachment, which is again a deep need, essential need that we all share as human beings. We need to be attached to what we call the primary attachment figure, your caregiver, your parents when you're a child, your partner when you're an adult. Okay, and for an avoidant, they deactivate this normal reaction, right? And so what we do and what we learn in childhood or through different romantic relationships is maladaptive response to this stress. So usually it manifests when you have a fight, when there's something, an external factor impacting the relationship, and the way we react to those things will differ depending on our attachment style. One will pull away, will detach, while the other one will be more clingy, more needy. I use the example of my friends. One will say, okay, we're having a fight, I don't want to discuss about that, you go upstairs, I go downstairs, while the other one is like, no, I can't leave you. Despite the disagreement, despite that we are fighting about, I don't even know what we are fighting about. That's the point. It doesn't really matter why you fight. It's really about how we respond. And when we don't know about attachment theory, when we read our partner's behavior from our own framework, from our own way of looking at love, I wouldn't go upstairs if I'm mad with him, because that means I don't love him. Right? That's a response, or that's how we see things if we're anxious. If you're avoidant, I don't want her to come, or I don't want him to come invading my space because I'm upset and I don't want to discuss. And so there's always this clash, right? And attachment theory is a great way to read most of the relationship dynamic. It doesn't, you won't necessarily understand every single dynamic in every single relationship. That honestly, if you look at studies, that's the best correlation in terms of relationship satisfaction, is how we manage to have secure behavior and secure communication with our partner. Yes, avoidant can love. And as a matter of fact, your partner probably told you at some stage, I've never been like this before. I've never been in a relationship like this. This was transformative. Maybe they told you, I love you, before you told them, I love you. And this is why you're confused. Why are they pulling away? Why are they disappearing? How they treat me? How is it possible for them to treat me like this after what we had? And the thing is, and that's kind of a pep talk here for you, love can create a form of infatuation. In other words, makes us stupid, right? When we're in love, sometimes we put our partner on a pedestal. We forget their flaws, especially after a breakup, because the pain of the loss makes us value what we lost more than when we had it. So what I want you to do, even before watching the next slides, is really ask yourself the question, what am I trying to rescue? Is there really potential in the relationship? Was I really happy with that person? Because sometimes, I have 15-minute calls, discovery calls with some people who want to talk to me. And not every time, but sometimes, it's clear that the way they look at the relationship is very much biased and doesn't necessarily reflect the dynamic before they broke up. So, if you ask, like, what was the relationship? How was the dynamic 6 months before you guys broke up? And they would tell me, like, oh no, it felt like we were roommates. I was not really, never had sex. And so why would you want to rescue? I'm not saying that they couldn't or they shouldn't rescue, but it's important to also understand the dynamic of the relationship. If you're not sure, if what I said doesn't make sense at all, or you're not sure, or you feel like maybe people telling me I should move on, but I don't want to hear from that. And it's normal. Nobody's objective. It's very hard to be objective on yourself. Either you're a bit like myself, you will tend to devaluate yourself and look things from a point of view of like, it's all my fault. Or you have a strong ego and you feel like, I don't need this person in my life. Take the quiz. There's a quiz in the description. It's totally free for you to assess and figure out whether there's a chance, whether it's worth fighting for this relationship. Sometimes, I will tell you, sometimes it's just not possible to get back with an ex, right? And be aware of any type of content or anyone who tell you like, yes, if you do this and that, you're guaranteed getting back with your ex. It doesn't work like this. I wish it worked like this, but it doesn't. So take the quiz, make sure that you have a bit of clarity. That doesn't also, if you take the quiz, it doesn't necessarily, if you have a high score, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to get back with your ex. What it guarantees is that you have the right foundation, you have the right settings for you to work on the recovery that could work. So avoidant, they don't break up. Well, sometimes they break up because of love, but in your case, perhaps they don't break up because of love or lack of love. And again, it's very important for you to understand that I cannot make people fall in love. If your ex lost feelings for you, it's almost impossible for me to help you and for you, in any case, to get back with them. It is very frequent. I think most breakups are like this. I think people who are watching my videos and my clients, they know that it's slightly different. They're amongst the minority of relationships that are there because of the clash of attachment, right? Because of the deactivation, hyperactivation, the idea of it's not working out. Perhaps you've heard something around, I can't give you what you want, implying that there's an element of, there's a set of needs and expectations. Because I'm an avoidant, because I don't have this emotional intelligence, I can't give it to you. And what you're after, it's I can't feel those gaps myself. I don't feel equipped to do those things, and they will pull away. This is very different than I don't have any feelings for you anymore, or I fell in love with someone else. That's very different. It's so hard to recover. Honestly, I don't even have a track record helping people in those cases, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work simply like this. But in most anxious avoidant breakups, it's really about, okay, it's not working. It's not about you, it's just that the relationship, the setting is difficult for me to handle as an avoidant, and what I need, my default or secure space is to reclaim that space. So what happens after a breakup, and maybe you don't want to hear this, but it's what happens after a breakup. First of all, is the idea, as I said, it's not working out. I have too much work, I have too many things to do, I need to take care of my parents, blah, blah, blah. And so the relationship feels like another project on top of their to-dos, on top of their, life and mental load, etc. And so removing the breakup feels like a liberation. Like, finally, I can breathe, I can do my own thing. I don't have to think about writing to you or messaging you or calling you. I don't have to think about what I'm gonna, traveling to see you or organizing dates. All those things that could be seen as positive, obviously, but for them, at some stage in the relationship, it feels like a burden, right? And so what I call, the way I see it, it's very simplistic, but and images sometimes are very powerful. I call this the Home Alone phase. In Home Alone movie, I'm sure you watched this movie, and if you haven't, watch it again. And if it's been a long time, watch it again. I think it's on Disney Plus. Anyway, 7 years old, 8 years old, he stays at home. I think the rationale is like he keeps on fighting with his siblings. They kind of bully him, etc. And he's finally on his own, right? He's like, I can eat ice cream, I can watch TV, I can do whatever I want, I can wake up, And so there's this phase very, right after he realizes that he's alone, he freaks out, and then he's like, oh, okay, I'm on my own, I can do my own things, right? For him, at some stage, and I think it's the evening, when he realizes that he's alone, he freaks out, right? He sleeps in his bed, parents, etc. And I think it's the same in a way for people after a breakup and avoidant after a breakup. There's this element of like, I can do whatever I want, right? I don't have to depend on someone. I don't have to feel that someone depends on me, which is a lot of weight on myself, on my shoulders. And at some stage, it's not sustainable. Like at some stage, they want more than that, right? You can't be eating ice cream, watching movies every single day for the rest of your life. That's not meaningful. And as I said, avoidants, they can love. They want to be loved. They want to have a relationship. The idea of, having a family, growing old with someone is something that attracts them. It's just that it's very hard for them to manage the intimacy element. And so this phase of eating ice cream in front of the TV won't last. I know that some of you would be doubting about your chances, and that's why you're watching this video. You're trying to figure out like what's going on in my ex's mind, in my partner's mind. Do I have any chance of getting back with my ex? Always remember that you guys fell in love. Always remember that you never forced your ex to fall in love with you, right? You didn't put a gun on his head asking you to be in a relationship, asking him to be in a relationship with you, right? And he was happy, right? He's an adult, he can make or she can make their own decisions, and nobody forced them to be in a relationship with you. Nobody forced them to say those nice words, to have this intimacy, this connection. Nobody forced them, right? And if they had something special, of course they would want this back. If they had this chemistry, if they had this strong relationship, why would they prevent themselves from experiencing this again? This is true only if, as I said, your relationship was special. And so you have proof, either actions or words, that you were someone special in their life, right? That they had other relationships in the past, but your relationship was what I call like life defining. And sometimes we have like 1, 2, 3 of those relationships in our life. It doesn't work If you've been disrespectful, if you lost their trust, if you betrayed them, it's harder. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's really, really hard because you have to repair resentment, rebuild trust, and that's another set of challenges. And the third reason is when after the breakup you didn't respect the decision. So especially when you're anxious and you are you have this fear of abandonment making you overreact, where you're clingy, you're needy, you beg them. The problem with that is that they would perceive, because the last impression would be very important, they will perceive that if I get back with them, this is what I will get. Okay, so in those cases, it's very important to assess whether you haven't done too much damage. If the relationship was strong enough, with time, they would sort of forget this phase and understand, okay, it was a shock for them and I understand why they reacted this way. But it's very important, especially if you just broke up with your partner, understand that this will have a massive impact in your chances of recovery. If you beg them, if you if you're showing them what they're scared of, i.e. someone clingy, needy, who has a really hard time with independence, it's going to be very hard for you to sell them that there's an alternative. And we'll come to that in a second. So what's their psychology after this phase of home alone? Understand that, first of all, there's this phenomenon of the phantom X, which is something that was developed by Amin Levin in the book Attached, that I would actually highly recommend you to read. It's a great book. It's very simple to read. It covers everything that you need to know about attachment theory. And the phantom X is basically the thing that avoidants are scared of or don't like is the commitment element. So if you remove any form of commitment, what's left of the relationship are only the upsides, right? And they'll start idealizing the relationship. They'll start looking at what you had as something very special with fondness, because anything that created some sort of tension, of stress, is gone. The other element is, even if people are avoidant, they can feel lonely. So of course, it's very personal, but a lot of avoidance, as I said, you have this home alone phase, but at some stage you feel like my life is a bit meaningless. So some people will lose themselves into work and be workaholic, but I think if they are if they are aware about what they want, and they'll figure out something is missing in their life, right? They might want to fill this gap with other things. Maybe it's alcohol, is drug, maybe it's work. But in a way, if they ask the question, what do I want? Well, they want a relationship like anyone. Remember that avoidance is just about blocking or preventing ourselves from being attached, from being in a relationship. And I'll explain the cases where recovery is possible in a second. But before I do that, I want to talk to the most important person in this couple, in this relationship. The person who's willing to do the effort, who's trying to work on him or herself, who's trying to figure out how they can grow from this breakup, how they can learn after this breakup. And this person is you, right? Because in a way, my clients are the most important person in the dynamic. I don't care about their ex, right? And so what you have to understand right now, and is to borrow the principle of Stoicism, and Marcus Aurelius is one of the great philosophers of Stoicism, is focusing on what you can control, right? Right now you're trying to figure out your ex's psychology, their behaviors, what they're thinking, etc. You're trying to look at their social media, their activity, trying to make sense of the situation. Fair enough. But I can tell you, having helped hundreds of people in your situation, that won't help you to get back together in any case, and that won't help you to heal, which is the most important element. And so right now, focus on what you can control, what's in your control. Assess your role in the relationship. Sometimes we tend to either deflect the accountability or the responsibility to our partner. Sometimes we feel like it's all my fault. Take a step back, distance yourself from the situation. Use that time to develop a secure attachment style. Find ways to learn about those things, to really embed these new behaviors, these new attitudes, this new form of communication as well. I'm launching a program in a few weeks. Have a look in the description. There's a link for you to discover how you can develop a secure attachment style. It's something that we've done with Elizabeth. It's 8 weeks, because I trust you don't need 8 months to develop a secure attachment style. In 8 weeks, you can make significant progress, especially if you work in a structured manner, and with also peers that will help you, that will help you, and sort of have this feel of, being able to relate and work with people who are facing similar, obviously your case is unique, but similar situations. So have a look in the description and let me know in the comment section if you have any question. There's an element as well of designing a new life. Some things in your life might need to change. Maybe you need to relocate, change job, adjust your lifestyle. Maybe you've been a bit too lazy lately, so going to the gym, be more active. So there are those things in your life that you can control, that you can change. And that's the only thing you need to obsess with. 90% of your attention should be on those things. 10% should be on thinking about your ex, right? Because I know, and you know it, that right now, 90% of your thoughts is about your ex. 10% is about what can I do for me, right? So find the right balance as well in terms of when you look at the relationship between guilt and accountability. Because sometimes when we feel, I never see progress, there's so many things, maybe you're overwhelmed by the content, including mine, so many videos, etc. And when we have too much to do, we can't act. We are frozen, right? And when we neglect everything, we don't change because we don't feel the need to change. So it's finding the right balance between, okay, I know there's a problem, I know there's something I can do, and I'm not overwhelmed. I have a clear path. That's why I'm doing those coaching programs, because I know sometimes we have too much noise around us. And this is also how I consume content. When I learn something, there's lots of free content out there, but sometimes you're just like, okay, I trust this person. I want to, I trust this methodology. I'll go with it, and I'll stop, having 10 books on this topic. I'll just do this course or this program and just stick to it, because that delivers action. The problem is, and unfortunately, I know maybe you're not one of those, but I know most of the people watching my videos, and not necessarily my videos, but when we consume video, we feel a sense of, I understand something. I've learned something. But the whole point is, what can I do about it? How can this help me transform? How can I convert this into action? And that's the limitation with me talking to my camera. I can't really control. And in a way, you lack a form of accountability. For me, for example, it's impossible for me to do anything on my own. I need a coach. I need a group of people. This is the only way I can do things. Some people are great at doing things on their own, and I'm sure some of you will be doing the work on their own, and that's amazing, and you don't need my help, which is amazing. And my videos are enough. That's amazing, and you're lucky, and I wish I could be like you. But if you feel this feeling of there's so many things going on, or I don't know where to start, find a program that sort of give you that structure. Maybe it's mine, maybe it's someone else, I don't care, but trust me, that would be the best advice you would get today watching videos on YouTube. And it could be one-to-one. It doesn't have to be a program. The program is just a way for you to get the sense and the benefit of one-to-one coaching, but obviously it's a little bit cheaper. It's okay to date an avoidant. There's nothing wrong. And maybe some of your friends are telling you, he's not the right person, he's not or she's not good for you. Understand that we all have insecurities. And anxious avoidant is one way to look at those insecurities. You have to understand that we are not bound by our attachment. If you're anxious, you can become secure. If your partner is avoidant, he can become or she can become secure. It's not something fixated. It's just a question of doing the work, right? It's important to understand your insecurities, to accept that we have insecurities, and we all have insecurities. If you ignore those things and don't do the work and start the relationship where you left it, I can tell you, you don't need my help, you guys will break up. Because you will reproduce the same reason you guys broke up in the first place and had this anxious avoidant trap. That's why many people get back with their avoidant because they go no contact and they have some set of, it's not that they're manipulative, but love is there, but because they haven't changed things, they haven't done the work, 6 months down the line, 1 year after, they break up. And then I have sometimes people calling me like, we broke up 4 times. And when you assess and discuss about nothing has changed. It's exactly the same reason. It's exactly the same dynamic. So don't expect things to be different if you don't change something. So address and look at what you can control. So what should you do now? I think it's fair enough to give your relationship a second chance. Don't give up. If your relationship mattered, if this person is important in your life, if you're important in their life, don't give up. Give your relationship a second chance. Right now, you have to work on yourself, which is a big thing. And there's a lot of things that you can include in work on yourself. But perhaps it's about attachment theory, but it's about building a secure attachment style. In any case, something that will help you for the rest of your life if you do it. It's about the communication, obviously. How you can communicate effectively with your partner. If you do this, you will be in a way better position than you were when you guys broke up. Because you'll have the right knowledge, your partner's triggers, that when they do this or when they say this is not against you, you know how to regulate your emotion and don't feel stressed when they pull away, when they ask for a bit of distance, a bit of freedom. Maybe you have the right set of support. Maybe it's a coach, a therapist. Maybe you've been to one of my programs and you have this sense of okay, I can do it. This sense of self-efficacy of, I know I can do it. I'm capable of doing it and I will do it. And if you do those things, the relationship will be different. You cannot get back together if things remain the same. You can, whether it's 100% sure, it's never 100% sure, but you can get back together. It's something, if you adjust things, if you remove the barriers, the blockers that prevent you from having a healthy relationship. And so in that sense, you're the one watching videos, you're the one working on yourself. I think it's okay to lead the way. It's okay to create that secure space with your ex and see how they respond and see whether they take this opportunity to also give the relationship a second chance, because it's not really fair on you if you're the one doing the work, if you're the one developing a secure attachment style, but at the end of the day, your partner doesn't see any problem. Your partner doesn't feel the need to, come your way, to find some sort of compromise, to challenge their belief system, usually limited belief system around intimacy. And if that's the case, then in this case, you should walk away. It's as simple as that. If that person is not able to meet your needs, and you know that those needs are kind of healthy and realistic, that person is just not equipped to be in a relationship, in a healthy or resilient relationship with you. And you should not entertain an idea of staying in a relationship that will not make you happy. But do this work, because unless you do this work of building and developing this secure attachment style, you won't be able to see this. You will always have this assumption of, there's something wrong with me. I need to do something, right? Do this thing, and you have the sort of confidence that you've done the work. And the relationship, then even if there's a breakup, you won't feel the same. You'll feel so empowered that you know what's right. You know what you need, you know what you want. And therefore you know sort of what to expect from your partner, and maybe your ex is not suitable for this stage in your life. That happens sometimes. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to message me or comment on this video. Have a look in the description for the links to join my upcoming program, and I'll see you next time. Take care.